today with a video. This video is actually going to be split into two separate parts. So one will be posted tonight, which is actually the night you're going to be seeing it, which is Saturday night, and then the second one is going to be posted on Sunday afternoon, morning, not quite sure yet. So this is going to be a two-part video about my two separate high-risk pregnancies. Both of these high-risk kind of categories I did not see a ton of videos on when I was in the situation, and like I've said in many other videos, I kind of turned to YouTube to, I guess, help me see what others are going through, etc. And so I figured I would do a video because I just really didn't come up with anything whenever I searched either of these. There were a couple videos, but there really wasn't enough with good information. So this first video is going to be on my first pregnancy, which I ended up having preeclampsia with, and the second video, which is going up tomorrow, is going to be a video on my blood disorder and blood thinners and pregnancies. So to jump right into the first video, so preeclampsia. I had it with Raylan, and it was scary, but only because I didn't know what to expect. So if you go and look, and I have right here, basically preeclampsia and what it is. So it's essentially potentially dangerous condition during a pregnancy that's characterized by high blood pressure. So there are a lot of other things that actually go into having preeclampsia, and I'll get into that later. But I guess I'll just go ahead and tell my story. So you're in a bigger high-risk kind of group if you are younger and pregnant, and I was newly 20 when I got pregnant with Raylan, so I was technically in that category. So basically, I have never had high blood pressure, nothing. But I want to say at around almost 19-20 weeks, which actually is when this condition usually starts to pop up, I started getting really bad headaches and swelling. I actually called my doctor one night because me and Powell were walking around downtown, and I looked down at my feet and they were gigantic. And I knew that swelling was common in pregnancy, but I knew not to this extent. So I called. He told me I had a bug bite. I don't even know. That's why I didn't go to him for my second pregnancy, and told me to brush it off. So a couple weeks later, maybe like 2 weeks later, I started getting these really bad headaches. One of the days that I got a headache, I actually missed a doctor's appointment and was asleep all day long. It like knocked me out, you know. It was like a migraine, you know. Every bit of light bothered me. Tylenol, I kept taking Tylenol and taking Tylenol and taking Tylenol, and it wasn't doing anything, which is actually another symptom of a preeclampsia headache, is medicine doesn't do anything for it. And I was seeing floaters. I was seeing black and silver, like it looked like gnats, and I was like, am I going crazy? Like, I'm seeing stuff floating all around the room, like there's got to be something wrong. So the next day, I actually didn't even realize till then that I had missed my appointment, and I called up the doctor's office and I said, hey, I was actually really sick yesterday, and I know I missed my appointment, but I actually think it's concerning. Can I come in? And a couple parts of that story is I'd actually called my doctor at least 5 times between that 2-week period, telling him I was having concerns about things, you know. I just didn't feel right. So at 22 or 23 weeks, I actually went back into the doctor. My blood pressure was fine. He said that, you know, it was probably nothing and not to worry about it yet again. So I basically struggled with these symptoms until about 25, 26 weeks. So it was like a good 6 or 7 weeks that I was having these symptoms. I, you know, was having headaches all the time, like, I was seeing those floaters all the time, like I just felt really nauseous. I was having a lot of like abdominal pain, not like a stomach ache. It was hard to explain. I just didn't feel right. So around 26, 27 weeks, I went into the doctor's office again. And at this point, I was just kind of summing it up to, oh, it's pregnancy, it's not that big of a deal. Actually, it was a huge deal. I went in that day, just didn't think anything. I felt great that day. I felt perfectly fine, no concerns. And they take my blood pressure, and she kind of looks at me crazy and goes into where the doctor was. And she rushes me to a room, and she's like, sit right here, you know. They didn't do what they usually did, and like, check the heartbeat, nothing. And the doctor came in, and he was like, we need you to go over to the hospital. And I immediately panicked. You know, I was horrified. I didn't know what was going on. He said, your blood pressure is high enough right now that if your blood work that you're going to get at the hospital comes back bad, we are going to do an emergency C-section tonight. And the only things I had running through my head were, I am not even full term yet. Like, this baby's only a couple weeks past what they consider like viability in a pregnancy, like their ability to live outside the womb. Like I was like, you know, she might not make it. And I mean, like, I'm getting goosebumps like even talking about it. And I was by myself, Pal wasn't with me, and I was terrified. So I'm shaking, and they didn't even tell me that much information. They didn't tell me what my blood pressure was, and they sent me over to the hospital. So the hospital, they just sent me over, got blood work done. It was really fast, and I basically just sat in my car after that for about an hour and a half, just like shaking, staring at my phone. I wasn't going anywhere. I was staying at the hospital. I was waiting for a phone call to let me know what was wrong. So at this point, I get a phone call back, and the doctor tells me, you know, your platelets are really low. Everything else that came back, though, you still tested negative for preeclampsia blood-wise, but your platelets are really low, which is potentially another symptom of this. And basically, you know, you need to come back tomorrow, and we're going to have another doctor's appointment and discuss where to go from here. So I had, like, a really weird mix of emotions after I got off that phone call. I was scared because I was scared I was going to have to deliver my daughter way too early. I wasn't prepared. We didn't have anything that we needed yet. Like, we were young. This isn't something that you think about when you're younger. You know, I was mad because I had gone to him multiple times because I had a friend who had preeclampsia, telling him I thought this was happening, and, you know, it was totally ignored. You know, just all these different things were, like, rushing through my brain, and I was just so upset and so scared. So the next day I go into the doctor's office, and basically what he told me is my blood pressure that day was still elevated, but it wasn't nearly as high as it was the day before. They told me I had to start doing NSTs, which is basically a scan to make sure that the baby's moving enough and the heart rate staying pretty normal, and that's a good indicator whether the baby's happy or not and content, because if you do have preeclampsia, the baby can go into stress very, very easily. So I had to have one NST a week until I think it was 32 weeks, and then I would do 2 a week from then on, and from then on I had to have twice a week appointments. So he also told me to go out and get a blood pressure cuff, and what I will say is if you're even showing small signs of preeclampsia, or your doctor says they are concerned about it, I recommend you go get a cuff immediately. Don't drive yourself crazy over it. You know, at first I was taking my blood pressure like 3 times a day, at the same time, every single day, just once a day, take your blood pressure. You know, it should somewhat maintain a steady level. You know, I had a bunch of scares between then and when I actually had Raylan. But my test results never came back, technically, that I had preeclampsia yet. So this brings me to about 36 weeks pregnant. My blood pressure had pretty much maintained a high level, but not like an immediate danger level for the rest of my pregnancy. I had 2 different doctors that I switched between, and the male doctor was an older doctor, the female doctor was extremely young. And at my 35-week appointment, my male doctor said he didn't want to induce me. He said that there wasn't a risk anymore, even though, you know, I was still swelling horribly. I don't even know if I want to insert a picture of what I looked like. If I can find one, I will insert one. Don't expect it because I have no idea if I even took a picture of myself in that point of time. And, you know, he was basically brushing it off, and it just made me kind of scared. So then, at the 36-week appointment, I happened to see the other doctor, because all 35 weeks I saw him, and then my 36-week appointment on that Thursday, I went Tuesdays and Thursdays, I told her that he said he wasn't inducing me anymore. Sorry, Liam decided he wanted to be a part of the video. He just woke up from a nap. So she told me basically that she didn't want to risk it because, you know, my blood pressure had stayed very high, and she wanted to induce me. And she wanted to induce me that next, I think it was like Wednesday? I think it was a Wednesday. Yeah, so the day that I turned 37 weeks exactly, she wanted to induce me. I think it was 38 weeks, 37 or 38. Isn't it horrible that I can't even remember? So she wanted to induce me that day to be sure. So thank God that they decided to do that, because the day that I went in to be induced, I was diagnosed at the hospital with severe preeclampsia, and had I gone to that day's appointment anyways, I probably would have ended up in the hospital being induced anyway. So, you know, that just goes to say, at least for me, you know your body very well. I'm not saying doctors don't know what they're doing. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying you know your body very well. If you think something is wrong, don't stop pushing it, because, you know, had I not said something over and over and over and over and over again, you know, I might not have been taken seriously. So that's why that was a high-risk pregnancy. Now, when it comes to preeclampsia itself, you know, there's a couple things that usually happen. You usually have protein in your urine, you usually have headaches, you usually have high blood pressure, but you don't have to have all of those symptoms, and a lot of the times you don't have a lot of the physical symptoms at all. It's only a blood pressure thing, but it is extremely dangerous. So, you know, if you do get your records when you go to your doctor, like your OBGYN, what are you doing? Where are you trying to escape to? You definitely want to make sure you're looking over them, keeping track of your own blood pressure, especially if you're younger, because it is a risk just being young. You know, you don't have to have anything that ran in the family, none of that. It happens to whoever, whenever. There is no rhyme or reason, but a definite risk group is younger people. So, yeah. I ended up having a fine labor and delivery. You know, there is a risk of not being able to get an epidural if you do have preeclampsia because your blood platelets drop so low and they don't want you to bleed terribly, so just keep that in mind. But anyways, you know, I ended up having a very healthy girl. I didn't have any issues with it afterwards. Some people do, so you know, I consider myself very lucky because that one day when I went in way too early when she would not have been ready, you know, it could have ended very, very badly, and I'm just so thankful that it didn't. But anyways, random screaming, so I'm gonna go. So don't forget to stay tuned for tomorrow for my other video. Thank you, bye!